Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing another paperbacks from Hell book. This is Sendai by William Woolfolk. And it seems pretty on point with some of the things that are going on in our country today. Or at least if you're American, there's a lot going on, sadly, as always. And it says the future is here, the horror is now. This is a kind of funny book, or fun in a way that, you know, I was born in 93. You guys can guess my age. It's not that hard to figure out. But there are things that I remember growing up, and even things I'm seeing now that, you know, when you look back on them, it's kind of funny because it's like, why were people ever really freaked out about that? And when I read older horror novels, it's even funnier because I'll have to kind of look up, I'm like, I don't understand why this is a scary topic. But apparently it was kind of like the Satanic Panic in the 80s, where, you know, I remember even being a kid and people's parents, you know, friends of mine, parents from that generation were, I mean, still to this day think that, you know, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, if they're of certain religious mindsets, that you are going to start worshiping the devil and whatnot. Which is kind of a crazy thing to think about when you're in 6th grade and playing a board game. But that's neither here nor there. Today, of course, we will be talking about the Sendai by William Woolfolk, which is all about the horrors of IVF. That's right, and vitro fertilization is the topic of this novel, and how, apparently, if you did it back then, there was a chance that the baby you had might be mutated by a mad genetic scientist who was trying to make a super race of super strong men. And of course failed horribly because what really came out were monsters. Monstrous babies who had a thirst for human blood and flesh and could eat through steel and like to choke the neighbor's dogs to death until their parents, realizing the horrible spawn that had come out of them, put it down. At least that happened in a couple cases. But yeah, so let me read the back. Something very strange is happening at the Carlisle Clinic. A series of infant deaths, all of them test tube babies. Falsified records and a top secret off-limits research unit. The death of a perfectly healthy young doctor. Alleged cause, heart attack. Dr. Rudy Gerson, determined to learn what connects these events, finds himself face to face with gruesome results of a hideous research conspiracy. And it's up to Gerson to stop it before someone stops him. Bum bum bum. So yes, it does turn out that the doctors and the Carlisle group in particular does have some interesting funding from various pseudo-government agencies, and they are experimenting with in vitro fertilization and kind of changing the genetics to see what type of better humans they can try to create. And doctors, usually ones that, is that oncology that deals with birth? I don't know, I'm not in the medical field. Feel free to correct me. But basically, the doctors that are seeing some of these births and later trying to uncover the truth behind them are having mysterious heart attacks, as the Carlisle group is not afraid to take out the people that'll speak out against them. And why not? They have a bunch of money invested in this. And we learn that the main scientist behind the Carlisle groups likes making no-shit monsters and trying to breed people with animal genetics to make newer and weirder types of humans, which the good Dr. Rudy finds out when he is eventually captured by the Carlisle group while trying to uncover their plot. But wait. That's the end of the book, because the middle portion of the book is him just running around and dating this nice young Catholic girl who's like a nurse. And, you know, they don't really believe in vitro fertilization because the Catholics don't, and at least in this book. I don't know if that's still true. Once again, I'm not a doctor and I'm also not Catholic, so I don't know. Feel free to correct me once again in the comments. I'm sure some of you will. So yeah, it kind of goes all over the place. I think it's really interesting, the fact, and I think that's definitely a trope in Paperbacks from Hell, where the middle part of the book, the characters just don't seem to do a lot. Like, the end starts off fast-paced, they know there's an issue, they know there's, like, monsters in danger, and in this case, like, a conspiracy against them. But they also then, by the middle of the book, find time to take their girlfriend out of town, and, you know, they talk about the dinners they go to and stuff like that. Yeah, it just is all kind of over the place in that way. It is kind of a fun book. If you like Paperbacks from Hell, I think this is one of the ones you should definitely check out, because it is a very good definition of what a Paperbacks from Hell novel is, in my way of thinking, in which it's just fun, it's pulpy, it's kind of all over the place. Yes, maybe it has a political message here. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know a whole lot about William Woolfolk or what he believes in real life, if he was against or for IVF and stuff when it was, I guess, being legalized, or like, I don't know. That's not my time period, and I'll be honest, I'm not going to research it. If you want to, or if you are from that time period and you know more about it, please let me know below, because that is kind of interesting. If this was like a major fear at the time, or if it was just like a small fear, if that makes sense, and then, you know, like any good horror writer, you see something people are kind of afraid of, and then you exacerbate it, right? And that's fun, and that's cool. I mean, that's what, you know, we got a bunch of haunted house novels out of stories that were being serialized in magazines, like The Haunting in Connecticut and stuff like that. And so I'm not knocking it. I mean, people do it, and I think that's what writers should do, especially if you're writing horror, right? You find something people are afraid of, and then you make it 10 times scarier. And I'm all for a good genetic engineering horror story. One of my biggest complaints, I think, though, is that once we see some of the mutated babies, we really don't get a whole lot more of them until the very end, in which Rudy, like I said, is locked up with some of the failed experiments and then has to get out and save the day. And I won't really ruin this book for you, because I do think if you can find a copy or download it offline, or even if there's an EPUB edition, I'll link it somewhere, that it's worth checking out, because it was kind of a fun read, even though the middle is just them vacationing, which I thought was kind of funny, until he flies back to save the day. Which, yeah. Dr. Rudy very much suffers from the fact that he kind of thinks he's smarter than everybody else, and it gets him into trouble a couple times, which I thought was also kind of fun. And I did like that the author didn't reward him for it like they do in, say, like Sherlock Holmes or something like that, where, you know, they are the smartest men in the room, and then everything turns out in their favor because of that fact. This, it kind of, you know, played against him in a lot of scenarios where he thought his power and prestige were going to help him, and actually worked against him. Yeah, I wanted more mutated monsters and a little more gruesome deaths, but that's also because I wanted more of a straight up horror, and this is more of like a horror with like light science fiction, if that makes sense. They definitely go into more of like the medical stuff, which I don't know the validity of any of it. Once again, I don't work in the medical field. I don't really read about the medical field, so I don't know. I just know they used a lot of words that ended with like ology and stuff like that. And describe procedures and stuff. But yeah, no, I think if you're reading Paperbacks from Hell books and you come across this, definitely read it. It's fun. I think Grady Hendrix talks about it in his presentation. I'm pretty sure it's actually even talked about in the book. It is all over the place, but in the best kind of way. So yeah, if you've read the Sendai or want to read the Sendai or know more about any panic that was going on around the time of its release or before its release about in vitro fertilization, please let me know, because I've heard the term test tube babies thrown out a couple times. I did not realize that that was in fact a derogatory term for in vitro fertilization until I read this book. So you did kind of learn something. But as always, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.